In this session, we are going to look at three conditional web element methods. The three methods are is displayed, is enabled, and is selected. The purpose of is displayed is to check whether an element is displayed or not displayed. Is enabled verifies if an element is enabled or not enabled. Most of the times, when it comes to is selected, it confirms if a checkbox is selected or not selected. All three conditional web element methods return true or false Boolean values. Our AUT will be orange HRM and the internet. Let's start with orange HRM. In this test script, we will log into the application using the username admin and password admin123. After logging into the application, our test script will click the admin module. Do you see how the search button, reset button, all change colors when I hover them? But the delete button does not change colors. These three buttons change colors because they are enabled. The delete button is not enabled. To enable the delete button, we must click one of the checkboxes for the system user. Now, when I hover the delete button, we see it changes colors. Now, for the test script and our IDE, I already have import statements for WebDriver, the by class, and Chrome Driver Manager. The test script is set up to be maximized on Chrome and load the AUT with driver.get. Now, let's enter some statements to find the username, password, and login button. I'm not going to enter the values for ID, but I'm going to go ahead and write the shell of the test cases by writing driver.findElement by ID. The value will come back to it. Now this is for the username, so I must write send keys. The value for username is admin. Copy, paste, and change the value for password to admin123. Now, when it comes to the login button, that would be clicking and not send keys. So for that, I'm going to paste and change send keys to click. Let's go back to the AUT to get the ID values for username, password, and the login button. Inspect the username. We see it has an ID value of txt username. Inspect the password. We see it has an ID value of txt password. Login button has an ID value of btn login. Go back to Python and write these values. Username, txt username. Password, txt password. For the login button, btn login. At this point, we have logged into the application. Now it's time to click the admin module by writing driver.findElement by ID. The value, we will get that when we come back to the IDE. But now in the AUT, let's inspect the admin module. And it has a value of menu underscore admin underscore view admin module as the value. Therefore, in our test script, it will have the same value when I paste. Let's check if the delete button is displayed and to check if the delete button is enabled. First, let's find the element by getting its value. Now, admin, search, reset, add, inspect, delete, and it has a value of btn delete. Notice the disabled attribute has a value of disabled. So that lets us know the button is not enabled. Therefore, it will return a false value. In Python, we write delete button equal driver.findElement by ID with the value of btn delete. Skip a line, and now I'm going to write delete button dot is. Now we're going to use the first conditional method. The IntelliSense shows us all three methods: is displayed, is enabled, and is selected. Select is displayed, then assign the value to is delete button displayed. Bingo. Let's do the same for the button to see if it is enabled by writing delete button is enabled and store the value in a variable called is delete button enabled. At this point, we can print the true or false values by writing print with some information such as before click is delete button displayed and enabled question mark. Now I'm going to skip a line by writing \n, then tab by writing \t. Some more information like displayed is delete button displayed. One more time, I'm going to skip a line, \n, tab with \t, and I'm going to write enabled. Then pass in is delete button enabled. Now, let's run and see what the console shows us. Bingo. Before click is the delete button displayed and enabled. Displayed shows true, but enabled shows false. Now let's click the delete button and check if it is enabled. And it should become enabled after clicking the delete button. Before clicking the delete button, we must check the checkbox. So let's inspect the checkbox for Cassidy Hope again. And when we inspect the checkbox, we see it has an input tag name. Inspect the system user of Cassidy Hope, and it has a tag of A for anchor. We will use XPath for both tags by writing Control F, 2 forward slashes, A for anchor, square brackets, text, open and closing parentheses, equal, 2 single quotes. Within the quotes, we write the system user name, which is Cassidy.Hope. Bingo. We have found the user. Now let's find the checkbox, which precedes the user's name by writing / preceding 2 colons, then input, which is the tag name. At this point, we see 1 of 28 elements. We need the first checkbox that precedes Cassidy Hope. Within the square brackets, we write 1. And we see Cassidy Hope was highlighted as the checkbox or for the checkbox. Now, I'm going to copy this value and go back to the IDE. Let's click the checkbox by writing driver.findElement by XPath. The value, we paste it. And let me make more room so we can see this information. Put that on a different line. And for the checkbox, the method is click. At this point, we must recheck if the delete button is displayed and if the delete button is enabled. So I'm going to copy this previous information, then paste that information, then change before to after click. Now, yeah, let's run. As expected, the console shows true both times for displayed. However, for enable, the first time we saw it showed false, but after clicking the delete button, it shows true. Cool. Now, there is one more conditional statement, and that's the is selected method. We're going to use the internet as our AUT, and it has a page called check boxes. Notice one box is not checked and one box is checked. Inspect the second checkbox. And there is an attribute called check. This shows the element has a check mark. Inspect the first checkbox and it does not have a check mark. Plus, it does not have the check information attribute that we saw for the second checkbox. Now we're going to load this page and see false for the first box and true for the second box. We're going to find the checkboxes by using CSS selector, hashtag check boxes, angular bracket, input for the tag name, colon, int, hyphen, child, parenthesis, 1. This locates the first checkbox. Change 1 to 3 for the second checkbox. Copy and paste the value, then go back to the IDE. Like the previous module, we already have import statements for the Chrome browser to be maximized. Now, the page has been loaded. Now, I'm going to find the checkbox by writing checkbox underscore 1 equal driver dot find element by CSS selector. Now I'm going to paste the value for CSS selector. Change 3 to 1 for checkbox 1. Then paste and change 1 to 3 for the second checkbox. At this point, let's check the return value to see which boxes are selected. Therefore, I'm going to write checkbox 1 is selected. Checkbox 2 is selected. Print the values by writing print. Let's also write like a little message. Checkbox 1 selected. And do the same for the second checkbox. And get rid of this insert by writing print checkbox 2 is selected. We're going to see when I run this module. Bingo. The console shows us what we expect. The first checkbox shows false and the second box shows true. That's it for all 3 web element conditional methods. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next session.